Today I'm going to do a review of this book, A Masterpiece in Disarray, David Lynch's Dune, an Oral History by Max Every. Now, if you like Dune, the 1984 David Lynch version of Dune, if you really enjoy that movie, then you got to get this book. If you're interested in filmmaking, you should get this book. This book is very exhaustive. He goes through every detail. The only thing I can think of that he left out, he talks about different editions of Dune and things like that. He talked to a lot of cast members, a lot of people in the production, even producers. He talked to David Lynch himself near the end. The only thing he didn't talk about is a board game, the Dune board game, which I think that game was made before the film came out, but of course they had a movie version of the board game. He talks about, it's exhaustive, talks about Toto, talks to them, interviews them. He interviewed over 60 people. And I don't know if a book like this has been made that touches on every aspect of this film. And of course, it's a very controversial movie. And I have a couple of other books about the making of Dune. This is for the TV series, The Secrets of Frank Herbert's Dune. I thought it was, I like David Lynch's Dune. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you had the miniseries, which I like the Dune better than they had the Children of Dune, which is based on Dune Messiah, and the Children of Dune. They incorporated both together. And the problem is it seemed to have a lower production. I'm glad they did the initial Dune trilogy because I'm very concerned about the direction that Denis Villeneuve is taking Dune, and I think he's taking it in a very bad direction that's not true to the spirit of Frank Herbert or the book. He's taking too many liberties on it, like a lot of things, like what he did with Aaliyah, Paul's sister, where she's not even born throughout the movie. A lot of liberties he's taking. The character of Chani, making her into an adversary, having her see Denis Villeneuve has an animus, some kind of, he hates religion in general, I guess, and Christianity in particular. So he's making commentary about American, the northern people, they're more wise and sophisticated. You got the fundamentalist in the South, it's pretty transparent. And that's not in the book. That's not in the book. I have to admit that he did a good job on both Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 in a certain way. But I think that we need to look at the 84 version as a definitive version. And I think that now it's kind of imperative for us to increase the runtime of the 84 Dune. So it's kind of, Frank Herbert was involved with the production of David Lynch's Dune. It's more true, follows the book more accurately. Now, there's some liberties taken, granted, but it's faithful. It's very faithful to the book. Once you watch the miniseries and you watch David Lynch's version, you can see it. And even the one by Denis, it's the same story being expressed in different ways. This is another book I've had for several years. Of course, like I said, I remember when Dune came out. I saw it in this initial release, and I've always liked it since when I saw it. So this is a book I've had for several years by Ed Naha, The Making of Dune. They were expecting it to be, or they're trying to do a trilogy on Dune. But what happened is the movie's released and it failed to resonate with a wider audience. And some people were repulsed by it. And the critics were brutal. Critics derided the film. But when I went and watched it, I remember I was a kid, and this is kind of interesting. This must have been, I guess, around Christmas in '84, and I was in 6th grade. And I went to the theater. The theater was full, but some of the audience reaction when I was leaving was negative. This guy said he thought it was overheard somebody say it was a cheesy movie. And I think what happened is we're going to have a reappraisal now of Dune because people weren't familiar with it. It's complicated science fiction. It's not like Star Trek and Star Wars, which is pretty basic and simple storytelling. It's kind of deep. It's got a lot of world building going on. So people go watch the film and they're befuddled and perplexed. They don't understand what's going on. And then you have David Lynch's proclivity for the grotesque as well. With the heart plugs and things like that, things that he added to the film. And I'm a Christian pastor, and so one of the things I like about Dune is the spiritual aspect of it. And he deals with this. David Lynch is he's kind of a spiritual person. He's kind of a strange person in a lot of ways. I like some of his work, like Dune and Twin Peaks, and there's some of the things he's done don't really have a big appeal to me. But he's big into transcendental. David Lynch is big into transcendental meditation, and Max Every actually asked him questions about that because the Weirding Way is kind of like a karate kung fu fighting style. But David Lynch takes it where he has the weirding modules, which uses sound, and basically he's trying to evoke the mantra meditation, and transcendental meditation, where the power of the voice and the word can bring about change and bring life, but also destruction. So, yeah, when I was a kid, went to watch the movie. I always liked Dune, and after I saw the films, I got the graphic novel. I got a paper book sized graphic novel. I still have that. I read through it many times. And the graphic novel version by was it Sienkiewicz? It's got a lot of the deleted scenes in it. And so as a kid, I got like the comic. They had a 3-volume comic book. I got number 1. I took it to school. I was reading it. And this other kid's, oh wow, Dune! I really like Dune. And this other kid came up and said, oh, that was the worst movie I ever saw in my life. It was a stupid film. And this kid was like, well, I can't speak for the movie, but the book is good, blah, blah, blah. And I had a friend, this Filipino, went to his house, and he was, I guess he had the soundtrack on his computer, and I guess one of the video games that went with the movie. Also, Frank Herbert himself, he defended, I read his book, some of the essays and articles and short stories he had in a book called EYE, had a picture of a Freeman with a still suit, which looks like an Arabic dress. And I want to mention that's something else that's going on. It's like, why would you, like Denis Villeneuve did, why would you de-Arabicize, because they're obviously speaking a form of Arabic, the Freemen are, or the Fremen. Why would you do that? Because people on the left like to attack religion in general, but not Islam. Islam's a special case, so he doesn't want to be seen as an Islamophobe. But the Arab religious expression and culture is pretty evident in the movie. You could create an artificial language. I'm familiar with the Middle East and with Arabic, so when I hear Arabic terminology, I can understand a little bit of it. Now, but to the general audience, you make a fake language to the general audience, they're still going to assume it's Arabic because it evokes Arabic, even though they're speaking in a constructed language. And I'm very concerned about his attack on religion. I didn't like his movie Arrival, which did that. His movie Arrival is attack on conservatism, an attack on religion, and now he's misappropriating Dune and doing the same thing. I find it disgusting and offensive. And what's even worse than that is Frank Herbert does warn people about messianic figures and how dangerous they can be in Dune Messiah. Because, in the way I took the first Dune novel and the way David Lynch and also Jodorowsky took it is like, this is a man who's, a messianic figure. But then in Dune Messiah, we see the failure of the Messiah, the failure of Paul Atreides, where he wasn't able to control atrocities being committed in his name. And he has to redeem himself and to become a real prophet and a speaker of God's word. He has to renounce everything, go in the desert, and devote his life to preaching the word of God as the preacher. So the thing about this book, I want to say, like I said, if you like Dune, this is a must read. And he breaks down some of the symbolism, like the pugs. People laugh about the pugs, but there's a reason why pugs are in the film, because royal families, they would have these special toy dog breeds that say, because Dune is a medieval fairy tale set, a religious medieval fairy tale set in outer space, and he's trying to evoke that. But this is an excellent book. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, the only thing he left out was the board game. And Max Every, he's like, well, he as far as page length, I don't know about word count, but as far as page length, this is larger than the first Dune novel, but I enjoyed reading it. It's an easy read. It's very interesting. All the interviews, like I said, he interviewed almost many people there. Some people have passed away. He didn't have a interview with Patrick Stewart. Or I think he has a couple of quotes from Brad Dourif. But just think about the amazing cast they had in the original Dune movie. It's amazing. He interviewed a lot of people, and I think, like I said, if you like the 1984 Dune, it's a good book. And as a Dune fan, I think it's going to happen. They talk about a fire in Universal Studios, but it's like maybe the footage with the extra scenes, because there's stories that there's a 4 to 5 hour cut, and people who watched it thought it was good, and they thought that what was released in theaters was a bad cut of the film. And I've seen that. I liked the Hobbit series until the Battle of the Five Armies. I thought that was a bad cut of the film. If you watch the extended version, I like that better. And that's the only one of the extended. To me, you watch these. Peter Jackson did the theatrical release, then he did the extended version. I like some of the deleted scenes, but to me, the preferable edition was the theatrical release for all of them except for the Battle of the Five Armies. That was a horrible cut that was released in theaters, and Peter Jackson fixed it with the director's cut, or the extended version, as he calls it, of the Battle of the Five Armies. So a lot of people saw the original Dune. They thought that the original 4-hour plus version, thought that was an excellent movie, and that the theatrical release was a bad cut of it. But like I said, Frank Herbert defended Dune. I read his book I, and he's saying, look, it was like he's trying to argue it's one of the top 10 movies of 1984-85. And he was saying, I guess it's more successful in Europe than it was in the United States. He liked it. He thought it did capture his vision. And like I said, there are certain things that were ideas in that film adaptation that he incorporated in later Dune novels. So he embraced the movie. He's behind it. He's involved in it. And you've noticed it's kind of like on a smaller scale. You had The Princess Bride. That was a flop. Now The Princess Bride is a huge classic film, and I think that Dune has also found a larger audience, not to the scale of Princess Bride, but you could tell that it has an enduring audience to this day. And one of the shocking things in this book is you had these people that filmed behind the scenes footage. They had 75 hours. That would have been amazing, and they discarded the whole thing because they thought the movie was a flop. And people think that a lot of the extra, the full original 4-hour movie was destroyed as well in the fire, but I don't think so. And I think, I could be wrong, but I imagine that, like I said, now that these movies, which I have issues with, I recognize they're good films. I just don't like what this new director is saying. As a spiritual person, I appreciate I think Jodorowsky is a little grotesque, but the vision of David Lynch, which is not just the vision of David Lynch, it's a vision of David Lynch and Frank Herbert. Later, he did a correction on the. I mean, we see it today. People like Fidel Castro, Mussolini, Adolf Hitler. In my view, Barack Hussein Obama, a dangerous demagogue, and that the left complains about how people just blindly follow Donald Trump. No one should follow anybody blindly, and there is a danger to false messiahs. And actually, because you read Dune 1, and it's like this uplifting, it's this great messianic figure arises as a hero, and then it's disappointing to read the next book, and you see he means well, but he's not able to control. And he fails as a messianic figure, but it's good as a warning, because I think that Frank Herbert has a good point. Look at even Jesus Christ, of course, is the Savior of the world, but his disciples, Peter denies the Lord. They're failures. They don't live up to that standard, and we as human beings all do. And that's the thing is whatever Paul Atreides is, in the end, he's a human being. He's flawed like all of us are. So I think this is, like I said, this is an excellent book, and I think that this year is going to be the 40th anniversary of the release of Dune, and I think they're probably working on a director's cut right now, because David Lynch has been adamantly opposed to it. Every time he's asked, he just doesn't want to talk about Dune, but now he says he's open to the possibility. Well, he's friends with Rafael de Laurentiis, so they're probably working on and they need to do it. They need to clean it up. There is a cut called the Spice Rider cut, which I watched, and it flows very well. It's a good edit. The only thing is he did a weird edit where he deleted parts of the infamous mankini scene with Sting, where it has the Bistro Band barges in there, and he cuts out a diabolical laugh and him knocking over one of these dwarfs. It's like, why did you delete that? That's odd. There's nothing wrong with that scene as it was originally, and that's a very popular scene, if you want to call it that. Now, about this book, I think Max Avery is going to have to do a follow-up to this, because after this book was published, he deleted 200 pages in this book, and because he wrote it on Word, and he didn't mean to write it this long. So when they modified it to the size it was going to be published in, it's like, this book is 700 pages long. So he went and deleted 200 pages. He says, well, when it comes out in paperback, I can add some chapters. But I think you should just go ahead and do a follow-up volume to this. Why would I say that? Because this is amazing. Max Avery has done a lot of great work for people who are interested in Dune as a Dune fan. He found two things that are very, very important. He found the script, which is halfway finished, unfortunately, for Dune Messiah. David Lynch and Frank Herbert working on Dune Messiah together. And it's very interesting. He actually thought, Max Avery thought, probably correctly, that the Dune Messiah script is better than Frank Herbert's Dune Messiah. And I was thinking about that. And they need to get Bill Sienkiewicz to adapt that as if it was a David Lynch film, using the designs and maybe photo references from the original movie. So what would a sequel have looked like? Well, a comic book artist could create that. So that would be very interesting. I think they should do that, because, like I said, I don't like the way. I think he should appeal to a wide audience. If he's going to do all this, his war against faith, he belittles and mocks faith, trying to make Stilgar into a laughing stock and a joke. I'm really offended by his derision for faith in his movies, and we'll see. I'm also glad that it looks like they're going to continue the whole series, and they're going to get rid of Denis Villeneuve after Dune Messiah. He's out of the picture. Maybe they can bring a better director that doesn't have such intolerant and divisive views. So Max found the screenplay to David Lynch's Dune Messiah, and he also found Frank Herbert's script. But in this book, Frank Herbert mentions that he wrote a script, and he was, what did he say here? Did I have it? He says here, a lot of people had tried to film Dune. They all failed. I tried writing a screenplay of it once. It was rotten. And Max agrees with him. So he mentioned, and he's been giving interviews to promote this book. Man, it's interesting. I think this is a great book. If you're a fan of Dune. And another thing I want to mention really quick is I saw Zendaya giving an interview, and she's wearing a Dune 84 shirt, and she's saying she liked the movie. The movie's out there. Like I said, it's kind of found an audience. It's got like a cult audience. There's people that like it. And I know that some people just had a strong reaction for whatever reason against the movie. But it's endured. Dune 84 has endured, and people have been, watching it and sharing it, seeing it. It has a following. And she was like, she watched the 84 version. She liked it. She wanted to play Chani. And I think it's terrible that what they're doing with Chani, because Chani is the mother of Leto II, and they have her run off, and abandon Paul. And also, you have the Fremen are, their religion, the Zen-Sunni wanderers. Their religion's like Zen-Sunniism, and it's a polygamous society in there. Like I said, this is a medieval Arabian Nights, medieval European, medieval hybrid fairy tale. Of course, there's a lot of ideas went into Dune all over the place, like Lawrence Arabia, things like that. So I don't know. I just think you should be true to the book, and having her, her to be hostile to spirituality and religion that doesn't reflect the character as created and envisioned by Frank Herbert is bad. And I don't know how he's going to resolve it. And Zendaya herself was, I mean, she walks out on Paul. That's not in the original books. And I mean, that's even faithful to the end. I guess, was it Kevin Anderson and Brian Herbert, Frank Herbert's son, have done, I believe they did it. They took the outline of Dune 7 and they wrote a novel off of it. It's like a three-page outline. They wrote 2 books. But they took liberties with it. They introduced the machines, the artificial intelligences in there, which surely was not in the original draft. But I think all other aspects of that novel probably was true to the outline. Of course, you don't know unless you see the outline yourself. But to me, it seems to ring true. It looks like they take it in the end, except for the artificial intelligence thing. They take it to a logical conclusion. Like I said, it rings true to Frank Herbert's vision, in my opinion. So I think he needs to do a different book on this. I don't like the cover because I guess you have the blue eyes, blue and blue. You got the red here. It's outer space. You do see sandworms. You see a sandworm between 2 sand dunes in the middle. But this doesn't look like a Dune book to me. So I don't think this is you got to think people do judge books by their cover, and I don't think this is an ideal cover, but it's a great book. I wouldn't judge this book by its cover. And if you like Dune, I'd recommend, or if you're interested in filmmaking, the process of film from concept to execution, and actually not just the execution of the movie, critical reaction and a legacy of a film that was considered a failure. But like I said, Zendaya saw it, she liked it, she wanted to be Chani, and she was able to gain that role. So I think he needs to write, he found so much more information. I think he should just do another volume. Hopefully this book is successful, but he's got a lot more material to add. If there's a paperback edition, I think he should just maybe add his 200 pages and just add the new material. But I think this is very good for film historians and people that like Dune. It's a great book, and he's given a lot of interviews promoting it. He talked to a lot of Kyle MacLachlan. He talked to Sean Young, and like I said, I strongly recommend this book. It's an excellent book on the Dune movies, and even though it's long, I think it's an easy read. You can breeze right through. It's very interesting and fascinating. And in conclusion, he talks about this. People I think that now is vital for there to be. We need to increase Dune's runtime as much as possible. I'll give you an example of what happened. Kyle MacLachlan, he's giving an interview about his wine. And he's a winemaker of some sort, and it's like this person's asking about his film career, and he says that he thought that Dune 84 would just be totally displaced and marginalized, and just disappear into obscurity after this new Dune Part 1 and Part 2, and then he realized that he thinks there's a place for both films, that the new movie's not going to diminish what he did in the first Dune at all. And apparently Kyle MacLachlan grew up as a Dune fan, and the movie is a big, meaningful experience to it, and he has fond memories of it, and he's proud of the movie. And like I said, I've been a Dune fan, introduced through the movie and the Marvel comic books. I was introduced to Dune through the movie and the Marvel comic books. But I remember, as somebody's following Dune, when the two-part television release, the 3-hour version, the Alan Smithy, because they didn't involve David Lynch in the expanded version, the TV version, so he didn't want his name associated with the movie, so they created the pseudonym Alan Smithy that's used for when a director repudiates his work and they want to release it anyway. He didn't want his name attached to this cut since he wasn't involved in it. So I watched that series. There's a lot of really good scenes that were like the death of Thufir Hyatt. I don't understand why they left those out of the theatrical release, and other pivotal scenes. What's her name? Molly Wren. She played Hera, and the thing about Hera is like it was the climax of Dune Part 1, the new one that was at 2021. Where he has a fight with Jameis, and Jameis has a wife and children, and Paul basically acquires Hera, it's according to Fremen custom, and these two boys become like his sons, and you can see that David Lynch used that, and of course they the Denis version, he just wrote that out, and I think that's very, very important part of the film. So a lot of these important scenes do need to be restored, and I think that if we can, I think they will, release like I said, the Spice Rider cut is 3 hours long, and he did not use all of the deleted footage. So you could probably easily make Dune into a 3.5. I don't know. People dispute if there's enough footage for a full 4 or 5 hour movie. Different people say different things, but I think there's at least an hour of footage, and I think they should take whatever they got so it could stand up against Dune, the 2021 and 2024 Dune Part 1 and Part 2, because I think that he's not being true. The new director's not being true to the spirit or to Frank Herbert's vision. And I'm glad that there are these three. I'm glad we have these three versions of Dune. You have the 84 Dune, you have the 2000 miniseries, which we look at that as Dune and Dune Messiah together, even though I think 2003 is when Children of Dune came out. And then we have the two-part. And obviously, they're going to do the entire series, probably going all the way to Sam Wars of Dune. And they, the studio, this Denis Villeneuve is kind of like, well, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do another movie first. The studio realizes, like, they can't wait. They need to put these movies into production, especially since there's interest in it. There's an audience for it. This is a business. That's why I think they're going to have a 40th anniversary release of Dune, and it'll probably be the director's cut because they can make money off of it. Now that people are familiar with Dune, people are going to rediscover the 84 version, and if we're able to do a better edit, people will be able to appreciate the story and what David Lynch was trying to do. I think as an artist and a creator, David Lynch has looked at Dune as a failure, and I think it's just the reaction. First, he wasn't achieve his goal fully. He wasn't able to release his full vision of the movie. Is cut down to an inferior cut. And then, this is he put his heart and soul into it. This is his expression as an artist. And to have it derided and mocked and ridiculed, it has an effect on him, because, they were planning on doing a trilogy, and to have, this visceral, angry reaction from some, this is a terrible movie and all that, it affected David Lynch. I think he should dismiss that because, and he's learning that, or he's seeing that people do like the movie. There is an audience out there for the film, and with the passage of time, appreciation for the film has grown, and now it's going to be rediscovered and reappraised now that people are familiar with the story. So they're going to be able to follow what's going on because they've seen the new version. They've seen the Villeneuve version. They're going to have a better understanding of the story. So they're, like I said, they're going to watch it and be overwhelmed and confused and perplexed like audiences were when it came out in 84. So it's being rediscovered, and I think that I could be wrong, but I think they do have that footage, and I think that David Lynch has recently responded to willingness to do a director's cut. So I think it's happening. I think that, like I said, this is all about money. It's a business, and they want to make money. If there's an audience and that you get people watching this film and putting money towards it, they're going to do it. They'd be foolish not to. So I think that's going to happen. So it's a very important adaptation of the Dune story, and I really appreciate Max Avery's book on this and the information he put together. If you have any questions about Dune and the process or what's going on, like I said, the only thing that's not in here is the board game. He has a picture of the board game right here, though. Because various pieces of merchandise. So there it is, but he doesn't talk about it in there. And there's the Dune worm. I remember seeing those toys on the shelf. I had this comic book. Of course, I got in the making of Dune. I still have this comic book somewhere. And I got the storybook, too. So, I don't know. I liked the movie when it came out, and I still do. and now it's not just a minority opinion. Now a lot of people like that film and understand how important it was. And like I said, I don't agree with some of the messages. Like I said, if you like when Avatar came out, I just got back from Iraq, and I was highly offended by that film. And it's like we go over there and we're fighting terrorists, and you're going to say that Al Qaeda and ISIS are like these blue people, and that we're like the military forces in that movie. It's deeply offensive. I've seen people experience horrific injuries in war. I know people who died over there, and I don't appreciate coming back to the United States and seeing this, jerk of a filmmaker mocking and insulting our sacrifices. We were sent over there. I joined the military. I didn't have any choice in the matter, and there's a lot of failures we had in there. We did some good things, but I guess in the end, our involvement in Iraq turned out to be a failure and a disaster. But that's poor planning on the part of people in Washington. Don't take that out on their soldiers or trying to make us look like monsters the way John Cameron did. It's offensive. So, when Villeneuve's making these fundamentalists in the South, what a jerk. And you understand when you have a piece of literature like Dune and film, people from all walks of life, even Southern conservative fundamentalists, so-called, can enjoy Dune in the movie. I don't appreciate him mocking people like that and espousing hatred through Frank Herbert's Dune in this movie. But like I said, in a way, they're still good movies, even though I don't like the direction that he's taking it. I'm concerned about where he's going to go in the future. That's why we have to revive interest in David Lynch's Dune, and I hope we can do an extended cut and make that definitive edition and throw shade on the new versions. But on the other hand, the new movies can bring people into the novel of Dune and the world of Dune and the Duneverse, and also into David Lynch's film. That's why I think it's going to be discovered and appraised, because now that people are familiar with the story, they'll be interested in watching this earliest adaptation. And I want to appreciate what Max Every did, and I think he should there's so much new information that he discovered that he's publishing in articles and talking about in interviews. I think he should just come up with a follow-up book. He has plenty of material already for a book based on what he excluded from this book and the discoveries. I'm impressed that he found the screenplay. I like to read it, even if it's inferior. It's written by Frank Herbert. That's his version of it. I like to read that myself, and I'd like to see. Like I said, I think they should adapt. Do David Lynch's Dune Messiah Part 1 and do a graphic novel of it, if that could be worked out. And I'm sure David Lynch has no desire. He's getting older now. I think he's pushing 80. And he probably has no desire or interest in finishing that outline of that screenplay. But you don't need to have him do that. You can probably flesh it out, because you can kind of guess where he would take it, and based on the ideas he introduced into it, and then you got the framework of the book he's adapting, so you can always have recourse by going back to the original novel. So, at any rate, like I said, if you're interested in Dune, get this book. And I'm kind of gone through a lot of stress, and this is kind of a way for me to unwind, is to get back into my childhood memories of Dune and reading the novels. But yeah, if you're interested in Dune, I also recommend the miniseries. I thought the Dune miniseries was good, and I thought the Children of Dune was adequate. What bothers me about it is they reused some actors in different roles. Don't do that unless you can add makeup where you don't recognize the guy. As I've directed independent film, I understand you create relationships with actors. That's what David Lynch did with Kyle MacLachlan. That's what, an actor, you like and become friends, you want to use them in other productions. I get it. But it's confusing when you have somebody that looks just like somebody else playing a different role in the same movie series. What was the other thing? The third stage Space and Guild Navigator. They had one in the first in the Dune, and then they have another one that looks totally different in Children of Dune. It's like it's supposed to be the same. I don't know what happened, and it looked terrible. My memory of, I think Dune Messiah, Aaliyah fights the robot, and they had Paul fight a robot, and it's like I think that was an idea from Dune Messiah that they put in the third stage Spacing Guild navigators were described and introduced in a completely referred to, but the full description comes in Dune Messiah. So there are certain ideas from Dune Messiah that David Lynch came and took and incorporated into his first Dune movie. He likes the monstrous and the grotesque and the macabre. You see that in a lot of things he did. And they say in these books, it's like David Lynch would love to live on Geedy Prime. He likes the Harkonnen. That's his ideal culture. He'd be at home, and people are talking like, that's kind of funny, but it's not surprising if you know his work. Like I said, the only thing I really enjoy by David Lynch is Dune and Twin Peaks. I liked season 3, but I was disappointed because he made poor Agent Cooper lost his mind. We never saw Agent Cooper with his complete control of his faculties. We should have, if they had a full episode of him as in his right mind, I would have said that season 3 was great. But I was disappointed because he didn't really get to see Agent Cooper at his best. So, like I said, I recommend this book. I hope you take a look at it. If you're into Dune, read it. And I hope we're able to establish David Lynch's Dune as the ideal and definitive edition. And if you want to see a larger, I think I rewatched. I got a DVD that had a lot of extended and deleted scenes, and I think it had the Anna Smithy version on it. So I watched it a few years ago as well. I remember since I'm into Dune, I watched it when it had the television release. I didn't like the new intro because A Secret Report from the Spacing Guild had good art. They had these crude paintings. It looked like something a high school student could have done better. And narrating over these bad paintings. But like I said, I wish when we were editing is a form of it's a creative endeavor, right? And I like the Spice Rider cut. I recommend people watching it. But still, there's a lot of footage that he didn't use. I mean, I liked his version of it, his fan edit. It's good, but he should have incorporated more footage. I like to have a version that's edited properly, just puts everything in it, so hopefully we can match the runtime of the new versions, so it can stand up to it more, not just with quality, which I think that David Lynch is more quality production in a lot of ways, but also with trying to match its runtime. I mean, all these scenes are deleted were created by David Lynch anyway, and intended to be in the movie. So let's put them all back. And even if the footage was burned in the Universal fire, which I don't think is true. I mean, has anybody gone and verified it? Even if that was true, we still have all this footage that was released on DVD and in the Alan Smithy version, the TV cut. So the footage is out there, and it probably needs to be cleaned up and enhanced, and we have the technology today, so hopefully we'll have a better version. Until we do, I guess you can watch the extended TV version, and then also watch the Spice Rider version. Both are about 3 hours. So, anyway, Max Avery did a great job on this book. If you love Dune, if you love David Lynch's Dune, you should check it out. It's an excellent book, very interesting and informative. For those who are interested in Dune and those who are interested in the process of filmmaking. Like I said, from conception of the idea, attempts to like Jodorowsky's version, all the way to the critical response when it was released, and then the legacy of it today and its current fan base, which includes people who are involved. Timothy Chalamet has spoken well of 84's Dune. Zendaya likes it. Even the new director, which I don't like. I only saw 2 of his movies. I hated both of them. I hated Arrival, and I didn't like. I mean, I liked the original Blade Runner. That new thing was not a Blade Runner movie, in my opinion. So I haven't liked anything. I do like his Dune movies. I just don't like his not subtle. What do you call that? Southern fundamentalist with an accent, Southern accent. Come on, it's offensive. But even though that's what he's doing to it, I have to acknowledge that his movies Dune movies are good. I just don't like how he's corrupting what Dune is about and using it for his own ill purpose. So that's why we have David Lynch's Dune, right? That's why we have the the miniseries. Both of both the David Lynch's version and the miniseries are true to the original novel and the spirit of the original novel, unlike these new adaptations are. So, rambling on, but Dune fans will love it. This is a book I strongly recommend. Max Every's A Masterpiece in Disarray. Of course, I'm a preacher and got I will have a series on Dune, but a lot of my content's about biblical archaeology and me preaching and stuff like that, and me talking about my conservative politics and things. So, see you in other Dune videos. Thank you and God bless.